You got to do your reading okay, Eileen?
Yes, I did. I did. It's very thorough.
Yeah, it's a good general background of what it's about, you know. What about your survival kit? Anybody give any thought to that?
Well, actually, it's very interesting. I've given it a lot of thought, and I have a lot of stuff already to put into it. So I'm saving receipts, any flyers that come in.
Yeah. Good idea.
I was wondering, there's, I don't know if you can purchase like a Pictionary, or would it be useful to cut out pictures and make your own?
Well, there is a fine. There is a picture. Yeah, can you grab me one of them? You know them.
Yeah, that's right.
Here someplace.
Oxford Picture.
Yeah, the Oxford Picture Dictionary is a wonderful.
This is low beginning. All right, but anyhow,
that's fine. Okay, these are the Oxford Picture Dictionaries. You can buy them online. And I would say if you can get a used one, even one that's written in, you know, you can get them in all kinds of languages. This happens to be Japanese, but I mean, just to show the pictures inside. There ain't nothing there that isn't covered in English or any other language. It's really wonderful. I'll try to mention it when the others get on here. Indeed, they do. We do have a selection here, but they're really for your use and not your students. You know, because once we give something to the students, often happens that it doesn't come back, you know, as opposed to the Challenger book, which we give to them to use. So yeah, OPD, Oxford Picture Dictionary. And I think I alluded to a dictionary before that we should still have some copies yet here if you want to give it to your student, if it's practical and possible, which is just a regular dictionary. As far as your survival kit, you know, again, I really push the picture piece because it could be used at all levels. And you don't know what kind of student you're going to get. So trying to just get stuff for your student. I mean, things change. We have one fellow from last class. I mean, he's been through 3 students at different levels because they got a job, they moved away, you know, so he's on his 3rd student in like 4 months. So having a robust survival kit, if you will, would be more beneficial. And you know, you may not even end up using it, and other people, you know, use it to death. Just depends on. So have your week 2 tutor manual available.
Yes.
So that you can refer to that a bit as we go. Remembering again to report your hours of preparation and tutor time. And if indeed you end up meeting physically, time that you spend traveling back and forth. Tammy will send that out every month. Just be sure you get those hours to us, please. Well, to start with next week's assignments, if you would read 5, which is shorter, and 7. We'll skip 6 for now. 7 is long and very detailed, but probably the most important or useful chapter in the book. In terms of ideas of different approaches, it's got drills, and it talks about doing different drills, dialogues, acting out different scenarios so that, you know, the student will have a chance ahead of time to practice role playing. And then when they get in the situation, of course, they'll be able to. But there's a number of good ideas there. And I would just suggest, don't try to sit down and read it all at once. You might want to do it over a couple of days because it is such intense reading. And then we have our grammar sites here, internet sites. You know, I think I'll assign one to each of you. And then I'm going to ask you to each find another site. If you just go into ESL on the internet, now you both have internet access, yes?
Yes.
No problem. Yeah, of course, I'm stating the obvious here, I guess. Eileen, why don't you do manythings.org?
Okay.
And Jim, I'm going to put you onto something that somebody had told me about last time, and it's called Ngoo, ENGOO.org. So it'd be www. Ngoo, and they just said it was such a good site.
Okay.
Okay.
Got it.
And then, as I say, you know, be prepared to talk about it a little bit next week, okay. And try to find another site that, and it can be grammar, reading, almost anything that look to be useful. I just want you to feel comfortable using the internet. You know, you may not always be able to get here to pick up material, and there's a ton of stuff, you know, on the internet that you know, should be useful to you. Kind of got ahead of myself a little bit. The first part of this just talks about different internet sites. YouTube has a lot of stuff on it. I've never quite gotten used to using YouTube like a lot of people have. Let me get rid of this recording thing. So I'm not as familiar with it as I probably should be, but I do know they have sketches on sounds. I know there's something on the TH sound, which is often difficult for students. R, L, those are three that come to my mind, you know, most readily. But there's, you know, videos there, whatever you call them, of demonstrations, you know, to help teach somebody those sounds or to work with them with those sounds, because they're just totally unknown in some languages. You know, like Tonga, nobody has an R in their name or in any word. It's really not something that they use at all. And then, Tammy, can you put up the attend a class piece? On our site, we have, you know, we have an outline of a number of the programs that we have available to you. The attend a class, and she was doing it under a tree at one time. I don't know if she's gone back to that yet or not. The advanced ESL class at 4 p.m. with Larry Knoll. It's held inside right here in room 3. And you can, you know, register for that to be able to attend. Larry's been doing this for about 4 years now. Really enjoys it, and so do the students. It's just nice to see somebody, even if you have a beginning student, it's just nice to see a tutor in action, you know. The American pronunciation class with Mary Cotter. That's on Wednesdays, third Wednesday of every month. And Donna Rogers is still doing the grammar class on 9 a.m. on Thursday. And I think, yeah, the American culture class is on hold. So you can, you know, give some thought to attending those and using those for your own learning pleasure, as it were. And I'm sorry, with reading chapters 5 and 7, you want to take a look at the appendices, A, B, C, and D. The appendices have a lot of nice information in them that you might find useful. And there's a number of them, so I'll assign a few each week. So A, B, C, and D, as well as chapters 5 and 7. Okay, we're going to watch something now called Understanding Speech Sounds that I show the first time we've had it as part of our Zoom class. Yeah.
Misunderstanding or a change in meaning. For example, look at the ship versus look at the sheep. If your student is having difficulty with pronunciation, you can help him in several ways. 1, model the proper pronunciation. Have him repeat after you. 2, let him watch your mouth as you make the sounds. 3, describe what is happening in your mouth as you make the sounds. All of this will be easier if you know a little about how the sounds of English are different and how they are alike. Ask yourself these 4 questions about how sounds are made. 1, can you continue the sound as long as you want, or does it just stop? 2, when you make the sound, do you use your vocal cords? 3, does the sound come from your mouth or from your nose? And 4, what part of your mouth do you use to produce this sound? Let's look at each of these questions individually, but first, let's look at the vowel sounds. There are the long vowel sounds, which are the same as the names of the letters. A, E, I, O, U. And the short vowel sounds, A, E, I, A. That accounts for 10 vowel sounds. There are 8 others. Listen as I pronounce each of these. As in her, girl, burn. Ar, as in arms. Or, as in fork. Oo, as in food. June, blue, chew. As in book. Ow, as in town, mouth. Aw, as in lawn, paw, ball, caught, or bought. And oi, as in boy or boil. Notice that you can hold on to any of these vowel sounds. Listen, ah, oh. This means that all vowels are continuants. You can hold them as long as you have breath. Some consonants are also continuants. Listen to the sounds for S, M, and L. S, M, L. Some consonants are called stops. You simply cannot hold on to them if you're making them correctly. Listen as I make the sounds for B, T, and P. B, T, P. The flow of air is stopped for an instant as you make the sounds. If you find that you seem to be able to continue making these sounds, you are probably adding a short U sound, as in ba. Adding this extra vowel sound can be confusing, so try not to do it or teach it to your student that way. You can see the reason for question 1 then. Can you continue the sound as long as you want, or does it just stop? When teaching your student to read, knowing whether a sound is a continuant or a stop is important in order to blend sounds to form words. See how much easier it is if you select a word in which all of the letters are continuants. Sam. Isn't that a lot easier than but? Knowing whether a sound is a continuant or a stop is also useful when you are helping your student with pronunciation. In some cases, your student may substitute a stop for a continuant. For example, substituting B for V in pronouncing the name Victor for Victor. Now let's look at question number 2. When you make the sound, do you use your vocal cords? If you do, the sound is voiced. If you don't, the sound is unvoiced. You can check this by placing the back of your hand under your chin as you make the voiced sounds. Let's make the short vowel sounds. A, I, ah. Do you feel the vibration? All vowels are voiced. Consonants can be either voiced or unvoiced. Sometimes the only difference between 2 consonants is that one uses the vocal cords. Otherwise, the position of the mouth is almost identical. For example, let's make the sound for the letter Z with your hand under your chin. Z. You can feel your vocal cords vibrating, so you know that this is a voiced consonant. Now let's make the sound for the letter S. Notice that you cannot feel any vibration. Now, make the sound for the letter Z again. Z. Notice the vibration? The position of your mouth is the same for both of these sounds, but with S, you cannot feel the vibration. We say S is the unvoiced equivalent of Z. If you have difficulty noticing the difference between voiced and unvoiced sounds when you have your hand under your chin, try placing your hands over your ears and repeating the sounds for S and Z.
Z.
Do you hear the difference? Speakers from some language groups might not have the same voiced or unvoiced distinction for all the consonant sounds that exist in English. If this were the case with the sounds for S and Z, the student might have difficulty hearing and understanding the difference between two words like sip and zip, or correctly pronouncing some words which contain either an S or a Z sound. Let's look at other similar pairs. The sound for the letter G is K. It is a voiced sound. If you keep your mouth in the same position but don't voice the letter, you will get the sound for C, K, as in cup. The letters CK as in back and K as in book also make the K sound. If a student confuses the voiced and unvoiced sound, he might say bug for buck. P is the unvoiced equivalent of B. T is the unvoiced equivalent of D. The third question is, does the sound come from your mouth or from your nose? This may sound like a funny question, but it certainly isn't if you have a head cold. In English, 3 sounds come through your nose. We call these sounds nasals. They are You can easily tell that they are nasals. Begin to make the sound for the letter M, and then pinch your nose. The same thing will happen with the other 2 sounds. A person with a bad cold might sound like he's saying figure instead of finger. And finally, no matter where the sound comes from, you need to consider which part of your mouth you use to produce it. For example, the position of our lips is critical if we are to make the sound for P correctly. When you make the sound for the letter V, you use your lips and teeth. Notice that your lower lip touches your upper teeth and causes a vibration. Other sounds depend on the proper positioning of your tongue. When you make the sound T, your tongue touches the roof of your mouth just behind your front teeth. For K, your tongue touches the back part of the roof of your mouth. For vowels, tongue placement cannot be seen or felt as easily as consonant sounds. A vowel is made by the tongue humping up at a certain portion of the mouth. We can categorize the various vowel sounds according to where this hump is located as each sound is made. Another feature of vowel production which will improve your students' English pronunciation is the understanding of tense lax pairs. There is more tension around the mouth during the production of some vowels and more relaxation for others. The sounds E and I are one tense lax pair. My mouth is tense when saying the long E sound, beat. My mouth is relaxed when saying the short I sound, bit. Ask your student to watch your mouth as you say these 2 words. Then have him repeat the words to feel the difference. The following words illustrate tense lax vowels. The vowel sound in the first word of each pair is tense, as in beat. In the second, lax, as in bit. Bait, bet. Boot, book. Boat, bought. The value of your understanding this tense lax difference is most evident when you are working with students who do not have a vowel distinction between E and I in their first language. In this case, the words cheap and chip will sound the same, and the student will have difficulty pronouncing the 2 words. Your understanding of this tense lax distinction will help improve his pronunciation. In English, some vowel sounds are produced in the front of the mouth. E as in beat, I as in bit, A as in bait, E as in bet. The vowel sounds produced in the back of the mouth are oo as in boot, as in book, O as in boat, aw as in bought, and ah as in olive. Our lips are unrounded when making front vowel sounds, E, eh. Our lips are rounded when making back vowel sounds, oo, During the pronunciation exercise, it might be helpful to show your student how you are forming the sounds with your mouth. Often students are embarrassed to look directly into your eyes or at your mouth. If so, a mirror is a very useful tool in teaching pronunciation. It's possible to position the mirror so your student can see your mouth as you make the sounds. If you position the mirror properly, the student will see your mouth, but not your eyes. Now let's review what we've learned about sounds. Sounds can be continuants, such as a, o, s, or they can be stops, such as b and t. Sounds can be voiced, such as z and g, or unvoiced, such as s and k. All vowel sounds are voiced. The sounds and called nasals, come through the nose. All other sounds come through the mouth. Consonant sounds depend on the position of your tongue, teeth, and lips, such as p, z, and t. Vowel sounds change by the place in the mouth where the tongue hump is made, can be described in tense lax pairs, and can be distinguished by rounded or unrounded lips.
It's done, Tammy. It'll be a bit much to try to absorb, but don't let it throw you. I guess the real point is that, you know, languages are all different and will make you aware of why they may have trouble saying certain sounds. The Spanish, you know, I think of especially the V and the B sound, you know, vacation, they'll say instead of vacation. Have you had any experience with any of these kinds of things, either of you?
I know when my oldest daughter was learning how to read, and like say in kindergarten, they taught, like say the alphabet, they did not say A, B, C, D. They did it by the sounds of the letters.
Would you say that again?
They learned the alphabet by the sounds of each of the letters.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty much my experience with that.
Yeah, interesting. That's different.
Yes, it was different.
Yeah. Anything with you, Jim?
Phonics, right?
Phonics.
I mean, and they just
Yeah, phonics is
right.
Another piece of it. But anyways, just to give you some, you know, exposure to why students may have some problems in speaking, and just keeping in mind your lips and your mouth and your tongue placement, you know, really defines what the sound is, and they may need a little help in trying to recreate it. And the good old mirror was a good example of what you might have to do sometimes for them to fully grasp what you're saying or to understand what you're trying to teach. The exercises I like to do is the old black and red papers. It's mostly to give you a sense of what it's like to learn a new language and how painful it can be. So I will teach you some Tongan words for these items and the things that I'm doing. I will tell you to listen, don't speak, and then I'll do kind of this kind of thing to get you to say the words. Let me just get another prop here. Guess that would do. Okay. All right. Paper. Paper. Paper.
Paper.
Paper.
Paper. Again.
Paper.
Paper.
Oh. Paper.
Paper. Good. Paper la nucula. Paper la nucula. Paper la nucula.
Paper la nucula.
Paper la nucula.
Paper la
nucula.
Paper la nucula. Paper la nuuli. Paper la nuuli. Paper la nuuli. Paper la nuuli.
Paper
la nuuli.
Paper la nuuli.
Again.
Paper alla uni.
La nuuli. Hiki pepa lanu kula, hake pepa lanu kula. Hiki pepa lanu kula, hake pepa lanu kula. Hiki pepa lanu kula, hake pepa lanu kula. Hiki
Paper lanu kula.
hake pepa lanu kula. Hiki pepa lanu uli, hake pepa lanu uli. Hiki pepa lanu uli,
Aki
hake
paper.
pepa lanu uli.
Ike pepa olives nuule.
Aki paper lanu.
Ike pepa.
Okay.
Oof.
So, what did we learn here today?
Hard.
Yeah, and it was just 5 words that you learned, right? Or 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5 words. So what is this? Pepa. There's no R sound in Tongan, so it's pepa. I'm trying to show that it was different pieces of paper as opposed to the color. So that's pepa. Lanu tells us a color, so it's lanu kula is red. Lanu uli is black. And to pick up and put down hiki pepa lanu kula, ake pepa lanu kula. Words you're not familiar with, and for some of your students, you know, English words are unknown to them. You can appreciate how difficult it can be. And you'll be lucky if you remember these next week at all. You know, if I should start waving around a red or black piece of paper, you know, very seldom can people pull that out because it's just so foreign to us. And that is essentially what happens with our students as well. In fact, I used this with my very first student. I didn't quite know what I was going to do with her, who did not know much English at all. And so we did this exercise and that was kind of fun. Okay, I'm gonna try to get Janet and there. So this is Florence on your right.
So here's Florence. Hello.
Okay.
Here's Janet.
And
Good
Janet.
morning.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, you know, I had asked you folks last week, could you just talk for a little bit? You can hear me okay, Florence? Janet?
Yeah, I wish it were a little louder. How do I make it a little louder?
No, have to stand me there. Yeah, she'll
That's
get
okay.
you set up.
It's all right. Okay, we'll manage.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Okay. So I'd asked them last week anyhow to, you know, come and talk a bit about their experiences and, you know, just to share their well, both their experiences as a tutor and the other as a student. So Florence, do you want to begin?
Okay, I'll begin. Well, Betty and I are veterans. We've been around almost 20 years. And we figured out that we weren't in the same training class, but we were in the same year. This has been the most exciting experience of my life. It was the first thing I did after I retired. And I have a background in education, so this is something that I knew I really wanted to do. And I must say that over the 20 years, I've had students from, I've lost track of the number of countries that I've had students from, but they have all given me so much more, I think, than I have given them in terms of their experience. And I always tell them how really proud I am and in awe of the fact they have come to a strange country without knowing the language well or not at all, and being able to adjust to a different culture and to want to learn and to improve themselves. They do it for many, many different reasons. They do it because they have young children and their children are in school. They do it because they want to improve their education. They do it because they just want to be able to be part of the community and the culture in which they live. So I must say that you are on a wonderful journey, and I wish you well because it has been extraordinary to me. And Janet is my latest student, and I want her to tell you about herself. There you go, Janet.
Okay, my name is Janet, and I'm from Colombia. I came here when I was 16 years old, and I came with my parents and two of my brothers. So I went to high school here. I finished high school in New Rochelle. So I want to be honest with you. I didn't like this country before I came here. So I said, I want to go back to my country. I want to go to my country. I don't want to be here. You know, and I don't know how I graduate because I graduated from high school. And then I went back to my country. And for some reason, I had to come back. And I come back married with my kids. And then I went back to my country. And then there was the opportunity to come here again, definitely. I mean, I came legal. And now I'm here with I have 4 kids. And I mean, they're educated in Colombia. 2 of them, they went to college. And the other 2, they went to private schools. But it was the opportunity to come here because my mom was here, my brothers. And well, we came. And now I hear about the literacy volunteer because I want to improve my English and be more like a little more fluent and understand more. So I went, I think, to the West Haven Library with my sister-in-law, and we were asking about where we can take some classes. So they sent us to here. So, and then we know that we can have a tutor one by one. And we say, oh yeah, we like to do that. I think it's much better for us. So, well, I start with classes with other people from other countries, and it was nice too. But I think like a more, you know, had my tutor, and it was very nice. And then I wait a little bit, and then they told me that Florence, she was available. So I said, okay, yeah. So I meet her. Oh my gosh. Since I meet her, I love her. She's a very nice tutor person. Oh my, so it was a bless for me. And she's like a therapy for me. She's so dynamic, happy. She's, oh, wonderful. And a wonderful teacher too. I've been learning a lot of things too. And I feel like I can express more. I can talk to people more. And that's very important, you know. I mean, being in this country, you need to speak English. So, like I tell you, it was a bless, Florence, for me. She's wonderful.
Blessing for both of us. We're having a good time. We are.
So I'm very grateful with the Florence and the literacy volunteers that have this program that is wonderful for people that, you know, coming from other countries. And well, I'm here until Florence gets tired of me.
Well, she's never going to graduate because we're having such a good time. So.
Yeah, so it's wonderful. And I'm very grateful to be here and with everybody too, and with this country too. And my kids, yeah, they finish their education here. They are all professionals. They're working. They're doing very good. Very good.
And Janet is also a granny nanny like I am sometimes too. So yes. she picks up her grandchildren from school and she just spent the weekend watching soccer games and everything.
Oh, yes. So. Yes, I have 10 grandchildren. So they keep me very busy. Yes, it's very nice. Very nice to be a grandma.
Do your grandchildren speak both Spanish and English?
No. Unfortunately, my grandchildren, they don't speak Spanish, just English. And I think that's our fault. My daughter's fault, my son's fault, because they don't speak Spanish to them, and me neither. So I think that's why they don't speak.
That's too bad in some ways. It's nice when there's knowledge of both languages.
Of course.
But at least your English is good enough so that you can talk to them, and more than good enough.
That's very important too, that I speak English and they understand me and I understand them.
Right, exactly.
Yes, yes. But though it's very nice. I mean, what you're doing as a tutors, I mean, giving your time is very, very good what you're doing for us, for people that we come from another country.
Yeah, that's good.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Either of you, Jim or Eileen, have any questions?
No.
Yes.
I do. Yeah, I'm curious at this point. What aspects of the language are you trying to improve right now? Is it, your grammar, or your diction, your knowledge of words? I'm just not sure where you're at in terms of what you're trying to learn.
Yeah, I think
just conversation, really.
Yeah. Yes, conversation, and maybe knowledge of some vocabulary that I don't know. So, but yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time on prepositions, and because Spanish people particularly have difficulty with prepositions, so we've done a lot of work on prepositions. In fact, we're going to finish up today with prepositions. Yes. It's one of the things we're going to do.
Yes, and I think I need that.
What kind of materials do you use, Florence?
Oh,
I see you out here Xeroxing and all that kind of thing.
Varied materials. I try to do cultural things. I try to include cultural things in my lesson. Maybe famous American people. We've done Agatha Christie. We have done Jonas Salk. I've talked about my experience growing up in New York and being a young mother when the polio vaccine was discovered and administered. In fact, Jonas Salk and I are alumni of the same college in Manhattan, so I'm very proud of that. And we also do grammar, and we will do comprehension. So it's really a mix of many things, and I'm open to whatever Janet wants to talk about. In fact, today we're going to. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the New York Times, the Metropolitan section, and they have a wonderful section in the back called Metropolitan Diary, and these are stories about people who live in Manhattan who have had different experiences. So we're going to talk about that today and talk about how people react to each other in an urban environment.
Yeah, it's very interesting class, because like Florence says, a variety of different things, and it's good for me. That's what I say. I told my kids, my sister-in-law, my brothers, I have a very good teacher, very good tutor, because it's a variety of everything. So which is good. This is good for me.
Do you do much with holidays, Florence? Do you talk about holidays?
Do. Yes. We do Easy English News, and each month, when you get the Easy English News, the first page, it's all about the events for that month. So we talk a lot about special holidays, and we spent a lot of time on Lincoln Gettysburg Address, because it came up in the context of something, and I had mentioned that it was one of the most famous speeches ever written, and it was very short, and it had to do near the end of the Civil War. So we got a copy of it, and Janet and I read through it, and I tried to explain the words to her and the context of what Abraham Lincoln was saying at that time. So
very interesting. Yes.
And there is, we do have some good books here on the holidays.
Oh, yes. Excellent. Yes.
Yeah,
there is one particular celebrating. I think it's called Celebrating or something. And it takes all of the holidays, starting with the first of the year and going through the end of the year. So I think it's important for anybody who comes to this country to understand how we celebrate and why we celebrate. We talk about celebrations in their countries too, and what's important to them. I once had a class of South Asian women from India, and it was around holiday, I think it was around Christmas time, and we were talking about holidays in their country, and they talked about Diwali and how much fun that was, and all of the many different holidays that we have. So,
and likewise on the internet, you can find plenty of material as well.
yes.
So, and it's an aspect that you really do want to be sure to include in your tutoring. We don't spend a lot of time talking about it, but for them to become acclimated to this country, well, there really is a need, especially if they've got small kids or kids in school, let's say. You know, if they know what Halloween is about, or Christmas, or Valentine's Day. I don't know if I told my funny story about, you know, newly arrived people who kept getting knocks on their door, and when they would look out in the peephole, they'd see a ghost or, again, a witch. So they ended up calling the police because they didn't know what was going on. Well, of course, it was Halloween, and they didn't have any idea what the story was with it. So I think it can be scary, and anyway, you can prepare people for that kind of holiday would be good. But just that they understand, especially to the extent that children get involved in holidays at school, and that they can support that, or understand why every child has to get a Valentine card in the classroom, all these kinds of things.
But I also include current events. I get the newspaper and I will read through articles. And I think if there have been articles about Colombia that we have talked about, because Colombia is in the midst of really a terrible time now. So we've talked about that a little bit. And I've included that with my other students also from Brazil and from many, many different countries. Turkey, I've had Turkish students who have been very concerned about what happened in Turkey in terms of the government. So we spent a lot of time talking about that. And that's very important because it's part of their culture, and we need to understand where they're coming from in terms of current events. So, but it's exciting, it's fun. And I tremendously, I enjoy it.
Yes, and our students obviously have families still in that country, and so the political movements that are going on are of great concern to them. We've actually had people go back just because they were so worried about the Syrian fella, you know, that just had to go back because they had a wife and 5 kids there, and he just needed to get back there and be with them.
But what I have found was that you become very much involved in your students' lives, and I've had several students who I'm enormously proud of. In fact, one of them is Leo Carreño, who came here from Ecuador, and I tutored him for several years, and then he was able to bring his family over. He now is the owner and manager of 3 restaurants here in Connecticut. He owns one's in Norwalk, one's in East Haven. If you ever want a great meal, Bistro Mediterranean. We were there last week, Betty and Tammy and I, and he also has one in Westbrook that we need to explore too. And here's a young man who's done tremendously well with his life. And my Ukrainian student, Alla, who came here, could hardly speak English, would walk to the literacy center from where she lived near Foreign High School. And we were able to get her tutored, get her through college. She graduated with an associate degree from Gateway. She's got a job. She became a citizen. She drives a car. So I'm enormously proud of her, and I'm still in touch with her. I kind of mentor her a little bit. I'm her American mother.
Yeah, they would call us.
And I have several students who have gone back to their countries. I have an Italian student who lives in Venice and one who lives outside of Paris. And we still email each other. And I've been to Venice and spent a week in Alessandra's apartment that she let us have as a gift for the week. And so it was just enormously wonderful. And they are generous and appreciative of everything that we do for them. And I know that's how Janet feels. We have a wonderful time together.
Yeah, I can tell.
So you have wonderful, wonderful experience ahead of you.
Yes. Okay, well, we thank you.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Nice job.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, Tammy, don't take them away.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for you to hear this, I think, and, you know, get an insight of Florence for all her experiences with different people. You know, it is just such a heartwarming and enriching experience. I mean, for everything that we teach them, they have taught us other kinds of things, you know, and we've gained an appreciation for other ways of life, different ways to do things. Any other observations or thoughts that you might have?
Just that it's sounds like it's extremely rewarding, you know, more so almost for the instructor than for the students.
Yes, it's definitely a two-way street, you know. Students appreciate it tremendously. And, you know, they, depending upon your situation, if you're just Zooming, of course, it's not so possible, but if you start to meet in person, like at a library or here, often they'll want to give you some food. You know, we don't take money or anything like that, but, you know, they'll cook you some of their good food. And even if you're not inclined to eat it, you know, you say, thank you very much and take it home with you, and some will eat it. But yeah, to me, that's one of the best parts of tutoring. I've had all kinds of food from all kinds of places. Really got to like Lebanese food. So yes, it is very enriching. And of course, you know, like we have this fellow from this last class, he's been through 3 people. Sometimes, you know, the tutors just can't seem to quite get going for a variety of reasons. And we always try to assure them, you know, it's not your fault. It's just the situation. Another thing that just came to mind with this is the element of confidence. Remember, I had talked about our underlying job here is to give people confidence to be able to speak wherever, you know, from their families to you know, the library, the store, the post office. And she talked about that a little bit. And, you know, truly that's what's good is that they have the chance to speak here with the tutor and then, you know, have the confidence to go out and apply it elsewhere. And that's nice. Okay. So what time we got here? 10:30. All right. So in this week, we want to talk about the beginning student. We've probably all met somebody in a work situation or, you know, perhaps in a store where the level of English is very, very simple. And may speak, you know, really very little besides hello and goodbye kinds of things. And usually students, you have a range in all these levels. You know, you have the student who can barely speak and understand to someone who has a much more comprehension, even though it's still pretty basic. So they're understanding single words and phrases. And, you know, you're just going to speak slowly and clearly and pay attention to your pronunciation. But again, don't overdo a good thing. You can't speak really slow all the time, but perhaps slower than you ordinarily would. And you may end up restating it again. Remember, when they're first learning, it's going in their head, it's being translated, and then they're trying to respond in some way, whether it's to repeat it or to, you know, ask a question. Their grammar speaking will be very simple. They'll have very simple dialogues. Good morning, how are you? I'm fine. You might practice different ways of responding to a good morning, how are you? You know, I'm fine, good, thank you. I don't say thanks, you know, because people give all kinds of different responses in, you know, situations such as that. For reading, you may find that they can read very well, in quotes, you know, they can see the words, read them very well, have good pronunciation, but if you ask them what it was about, nothing, you know, or very little. There might be a noun or a verb or two that they would have some idea what it was about. I mean, I know I can read a Tongenspiel probably perfectly, but would I know what I was reading? Probably not, unless I knew, had some context in my head, or because of a verb or nouns that I would you know, be able to dope it out. So being able to read doesn't tell you a lot. So you always have to check for comprehension. And there's a lot of that in the Challenger series, you know, that we use. If there's reading, Then they're asking questions afterwards, and you can see how well your student absorbed this. And writing, they can certainly copy words and might be able to write a few small, short sentences. You're going to want to correct grammar where you can. Remember, keeping in mind this idea of skipping a line whenever your student is writing anything so that you could edit it if needs be. You can suggest changes so that it will be a more comprehensive, a more correct kind of sentence or paragraph. You have that little set of diagrams there, you know, understanding, listening, speaking, reading and writing eventually gives fluency to a student. And then the difference between goals and objectives. We've talked about, you know, when you meet your student, that you want to know what their goals are. And sometimes it's as broad as, I gotta learn English, you know. And there isn't a lot of specifics to go with that because they don't have a plan. Maybe they're newly arrived, they don't have a job in mind. The whole situation is so overwhelming that they can't think beyond, I've got to learn English, you know. But as time goes on, perhaps a job comes up. Maybe she's going to work cleaning houses, in which case you change your focus a bit. With vocabulary, for example, that you're going to start to work those kind of words into the lessons that you have. So just to talk a bit about goals and objectives, you know, goals are very broad. They show a general intention, they're intangible and abstract, and they can be virtually impossible to validate. Whereas an objective is very narrow and precise. It's measurable, it's concrete, it can be validated, very specific. So it gives an example here in your book, you know, the goal is to know about the human body. The objectives are to name all the bones in the human body, as stated in a medical textbook. Now that's a bunch of goals to be had. All the bones in the human body is about 206 or 218. That's a lot, but nevertheless, very specific. To give another example, I thought about, you know, you may have a granddaughter or grandson who wants to do something in medicine. You know, that would be his goal. How that eventually pans out can very well be something else, but it then becomes more specific. Granddaughter says, you know, after this COVID experience, you know, this COVID pandemic that we've been dealing with, I really think I'd like to be a nurse. It's a wonderful way to be able to help people. Okay, so now she's, let's say, a sophomore in high school. What has she got to do to be able to get into a nursing program? Needs to research, perhaps get on the internet, research programs that are available. She knows she's not going to go away. If she can commute, it would be even better because it would be less expensive. So she gets a feeling for possible colleges she might want to attend and what their requirements are. Schools are all very different. Nursing programs are extremely competitive. And she needs to know what she's going to have to do to get into these schools. She knows she needs at least a B in chemistry. And that's one of the required subjects. And science is not her strong point. So she might find a study group, get somebody to tutor in it, but take some very definitive steps to be able to get at least a B. Another thing that they can do, or she could do, is to take an EMT training program. Stratford has this wonderful EMT, emergency medical technician training program they do. They take high school, I don't know whether they're juniors and seniors, I think that's where it's at. And they teach them to be EMTs. And they ride the ambulance with an experienced EMT. And that should give them a really good idea about whether they really want to go into nursing, let's say, or become a doctor. You know, if after being on a scene of a bad accident and there's lots of blood, they say, forget this, you know, I'm just never going to be able to do blood and guts, you know, I'll have to think of something else or a different type of nursing. Somebody else will say, blood and guts, I love it, in so many words. I'm going to be an ER nurse. So it can really give them a sense of direction. Margaret, you're with us.
Yeah, yes, I had some internet issues this morning. I'm sorry, I'm late.
Then they need to take part in 3 extracurricular activities. They're going to want to have this kind of thing on their resume when they apply to college. It looks good. Hopefully they can find things within the program, you know, in high school that will support their goals. And then everybody's got to take SATs. They know that they've got to get a fairly high grade in those. And so they might want to take a prep class, you know, have a study group, get a tutor. So it goes from something much more general down to very specific things that, you know, can be done to obtain these goals. I hope that gives you a little more idea about it. Any questions about that? Any thoughts? There's an example here of a lesson plan and a sample lesson that could be used. And it's really, it's very good. Even a very low student could appreciate this as a beginner, and even somebody more advanced, because it would reinforce information that they had. The goal will be to expand their practice of vocabulary, be able to build their vocabulary, practice conversational skills, and copy words. And the materials that they're using, and that's the example of the lesson that we have here, is from First Words in English. So your warm-up could be something like, well, what did you have for lunch today? Because we're going to talk about eating at a fast food restaurant. So you could start by talking about that kind of thing, and then having it, you know, proceed from there. You know, where do you like to go? Show words and show pictures to go with those words. If you get into the lesson proper, you'll see that you can start by asking them to write the names of their favorite foods. You know, maybe taco, hamburger, coffee. See if that's possible to do. Ask them what kinds of foods are served in the restaurant and what's their favorite, for example. And then there's pictures of different foods and drinks. So you would say the word, have them repeat it. Might do that a couple of times if there's any confusion or any difficulty in their pronunciation of it. And you'll see that each picture has a number, and then below it asks them to write the number next to the words. And so you go through hamburger, just a number 9, and the cheeseburger number 2, coffee number 1, and so on and so forth. Then there's letters in sound practice. They're asked to write the words with F, you know, fish, French fries, with H, hot dog and hamburger, CH, cheese and sandwich, and T for taco and ice and tea. They practice reading the words. They have another, you know, here's this repetition that's coming in. It's not like you just say these words over and over and over, but they're always in a slightly different context. Then they're asked to put the words in a group. Are these drinks or are these foods? And there's a practice session with that you could each take a turn in doing. It'd be the clerk one time, and they would be the customer, and then you can change those roles, and that's very good experience for them to be able to role play and have actual experience in both sides of the picture. And then finally, for homework, you know, you could give them the fast food menu that's there and ask them to write the prices of the items that are listed and then make up their own, and to bring that the following weekend to talk about it. Sometimes I go through the homework with the student. You know, I won't have them write it down, but just to go through it verbally so that it gives them a full understanding of what's wanted and a chance to sort these words out and the things that are being requested, and then have them actually do it. That's a really nice kind of low-level lesson that could be used. In the back of that, there's suggestions for a level 1 student. this might give you some focus as to things that you want to include with this beginning student. You know, you want to include common verbs, use do in the present and tense and the question form, because you know, if you ask somebody what did they do, you know, they might want to answer, well, I did writing. I did, you know, instead of saying, well, I wrote a letter to my family. So practicing different kinds of responses to what did you do will be helpful to them. Pronouns, articles, the, and a. You'll find that students often just do not use the and a. It's confusing to them. They may just string words together. In the beginning, that's fine. More advanced students may actually want you to spend time teaching them how to use the and a. And by that time, they've also acquired an ear for the language too. So it's not quite as difficult for them as it might be for a beginning student. And some basic prepositions, like next to, beside, around. Some of that is very helpful without getting into too many of them. Then there's different survival topics, you know, food, parts of the body. Parts of the body is really important. At some point, you really need to get a picture, and I'm sure there's something online, you know, of a person and the parts of the body. If their child gets sick, if they get sick, and they have to go to the ER, you know, a walk-in, you know, having knowledge of this vocabulary is really good. And for that matter, calling 911, which can be difficult. Family members, telephone, make sure that they know their address. You know, we had a law student once who went out for a walk and she didn't know where she lived. You know, she really didn't know the address. And I don't know how she ever finally got home. I don't recall the full story to it, but you know, she just didn't know. And if you could write that down and show it to somebody, if she couldn't say it all, they could have pointed her in the right direction. And they talk about some texts. I was showing Margaret or Meg this book of the Oxford Picture Dictionary. You can get these online, you can get them used, and they are done. There's two kinds where it's kind of a workbook, which is one way to use it. But I mean, this literally has a picture for everything you can think of, you know, every situation, every place. So if the student can't understand what we're doing in English, they can refer to that.
That's great.
It's a, you know, if you go on to, just go onto Amazon and look for books, and it's done, is it New Reader Press, I think? Anyway, this is English Japanese, English Spanish, English Turkish, almost any kind of a language you can get. And you don't have to, of course. But it would be really good that your student has some kind of a book. And many of them will. I mean, they'll have several of them. Some of them are very tuned into the computer and to even their phones for translation. That is very helpful to them as well. They need all the prompts that they can get to be able to be successful. And of course, we have a number of books in here. If you come in here, Tammy can help you, or I can, if it's on a Monday morning, other people who might be here to help you with things that you might need. Any questions about any of that? 10,000 words or more, here we are. There's a section on facts about speaking. I'll just let you read through that. Which is kind of interesting. There's also a thing, 300 most common sight words. Students really need to have knowledge of these words because they're going to hear them all the time. They're going to read them all the time. And one of the things that one of my student tutors told me, she had started to have her student take 5 of these. They'd read them through the first, let's say 10 or 5, depending on how complicated they get as it goes on. And they'd make sentences in class, and then the student would have to write a sentence or 2 for each word to come back. So it becomes part of them, and they recognize the word. They really become sight words for them. But these are essential words. You know, I think what percent, we have something up on the board here somewhere, I don't know, over 50% of all written material contains these 300 words. So it gives you some idea of, you know, the frequency. So something to focus on. The other part is called TPR, which as nurses know is temperature, pulse, and respirations, and the rest of the world in the world of ESL know it as total physical response. At the beginning level, I mean, you could be using hand motions and pointing. Make sure they learn, you know, point to is a very key 2 words so that you can point to a window, point to a door, point to your nose, point to your eye, point to your ear. Some of the key words that that you will need to help them to learn. And then also with the TPR, you're demonstrating things as well. If you're saying stand up, you know, you're saying stand up, and then you sit down and you're saying sit down as you do it. Walk, and you're walking. Stop, you stop. Turn around, turn around. Return. So it's very much saying things verbally, but then they see words to go with it. Words and actions together. And I think I will play. We have a little video to go with this. See if Tammy can do that for us. Tammy, can you play that second video for us?
Kinds of pictures in a lesson. They can come from books, magazines, newspapers, family albums, or store catalogs. They can be photographs, drawings, or cartoons. When putting your file together, look for pictures that include people of different ages, sexes, and ethnic backgrounds. As you gain experience, your picture file will grow too, and you'll develop the ability to select pictures that fit specific instructional settings and learning objectives. English speakers. The words they learn will become building blocks that they can arrange to meet their communication needs on their jobs, with their families, and in their communities. The first step is to recognize these words when they hear them.
Chung, in today's lesson, I'm going to teach you the names of some of the coins. You listen and watch me, okay? Pick up the penny, put down the penny. Now you do. Pick up the penny, put down the penny. Good. Total physical response is an excellent method used to teach new learners how to understand unfamiliar vocabulary without being forced to speak it. Chung already understands the meaning of pick up and put down. Now I can use these familiar terms to teach her vocabulary associated with coins. Pick up the nickel, put down the nickel. Now you do. Pick up the nickel, put down the nickel. Very good. Pick up the nickel, pick up the nickel, put down the nickel. Good. Pick up the penny, put down the penny. Very good. Pick up the dime, put down the dime. Now you try. Pick up the dime, put down the dime. Good. Pick up the quarter, put down the quarter. Pick up the quarter, put down the quarter. Good. Pick up the penny, put down the penny. Pick up the nickel, Chung. Chung, put down the nickel. Good. Pick up the dime. Good. Put down the dime. Okay, Chung, pick up the quarter. Put down the quarter. Good. We're all done.
It's important for people to understand what they hear. But they will also need to be able to say the words themselves and to feel confident that English speakers will understand them.
I like to use vocabulary drills to help them do this. Before a word can become a permanent part of their speaking vocabulary, they need to hear and use the word several times. In order not to overwhelm them, I also avoid introducing too much vocabulary at one time. In this lesson, we're working on the names of 4 items you'd find in a bathroom: comb, brush, toothbrush, and soap. Pictures are helpful in teaching vocabulary, but I find it works best to have the real objects whenever possible. This is a comb.
Yeah.
This is a comb. You say, this is a comb.
This is a comb.
This is a comb.
This is a comb.
Give the comb to Jakob.
This is a comb.
This is a comb.
This is a comb.
Jakob, can you give the comb to June?
This is a comb.
This is a comb.
This is a comb.
What is this? This is a comb. What is this?
This is a comb.
Very good. Jakob, what is this?
It is a comb.
This is a comb.
This is a comb.
June, what is this?
This is a comb.
Good, good. This is a brush. This is a brush.
This is a brush.
Okay, you can take this. This is a brush.
This is a brush.
Okay, can you give the brush to Jakob? Jakob, this is a brush. You say now. This is a brush.
This is a brush.
Okay, very nice. Can you give the brush to Chun? Chun, this is a brush. You say.
This is a brush.
Very good. Chun, what's this?
This is a comb.
This is a comb. This is a comb. Jakob, what is this?
This is a brush.
Good. This is a brush.
This is a brush.
Good. This is a toothbrush. This is a toothbrush. Can you say that for me, Yud?
This is a toothbrush.
Good. Pass the toothbrush to Jakob.
This is a toothbrush.
Okay. Say that again for me. This is a toothbrush.
This is a toothbrush.
This is a tooth. This is
a toothbrush.
A toothbrush. Okay. Can you give the toothbrush to Chun? Chun, what is this?
This is a toothbrush.
Yeah. What's this?
This is a comb.
Jakob, what's this?
This is a comb.
Chun, what's this?
This is a comb.
Good. Yet, what is this?
This is a comb.
This is a brush.
Angle. This is angle.
Okay. This is a brush.
This is a brush.
Chun, what is this?
This is a brush.
Yet, what is this?
This is toothbrush.
Good. This is a toothbrush. This is a toothbrush. This is soap.
Soap.
This is soap. Soap. Yet, can you say, this is soap?
This is soap.
Okay. This is soap.
This is soap.
Okay, can you pass the soap to Jakob? Jakob, this is soap.
Soap. This is soap.
Okay, can you pass the soap, please? June, this is soap.
This is a soap.
This is soap.
This is soap.
Very good. This is soap.
Oh.
No, this is soap.
This is soap.
Chun, what's this?
This is comb.
Very good. This is a comb. This is
a comb.
Jakob, what's this?
Cheese is a brush.
This is a brush.
This is a brush.
Yet, what is this?
This is a toothbrush.
This is a toothbrush.
This is a toothbrush.
Chun, What's this?
This is soap.
This is soap.
This is soap.
Very good. This is soap.
This is soap.
Very good. This is a comb. This is a brush. This is a toothbrush. And this is soap.
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 Not a soap. Soap. Remember that.
Vocabulary drills can help teach many different types of words. For example, adjectives that describe feelings such as happy and sad. Words that are associated with time. Words such as hours, minutes, 12:30 or 12:30. Or common but confusing verbs such as is and isn't. The choice of the vocabulary to be taught will depend on what the learners already know and what they most need to learn.
Is this a big box? Big box.
Big bug.
Is this a big box?
Is this a big bug?
Uh-huh. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Is this a big box? Yes, it
Yes.
is.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yakov, is this a big box?
No,
No, it isn't.
no, it isn't.
Very good. Is this a big box?
No, it isn't. It isn't.
Good. No, it isn't.
No, it isn't. It isn't.
Good. Yakov, is this an open box? This box, is it open?
Open? No,
Good. No,
No.
it isn't.
no, it isn't.
Yakov, is this an open box?
Yes,
It is.
it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Very good. Very good. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
How did you find that?
Good.
It shows you how tedious, you know, when I said to you that if you have a really low level beginner, which these folks were, you can't do 2 hours of this at a clip. You'll barely get through an hour. It was hard to listen to for even, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes. And she did a really good demonstration of what these students, I mean, were the real McCoy. That's the beauty of some of these videos. I mean, there's nobody pretending to be at a lower level. I mean, they're struggling. You could see Yakov was having a hard time just saying, yes, it is, and no, it isn't. Such simple things, you know, but difficult as somebody who doesn't know the language, doesn't know the sounds. So yeah, an hour at a clip, maybe the most that you can do twice a week. And in time, you know, it'll be easier for both of you, and you'll be able to evolve into a once a week kind of lesson. But it's wearing, it's difficult to, you know, it's difficult to watch, but again, you see that repetition. And they didn't know any of the vocabulary ahead of time. So, you know, she must have said the word toothbrush, comb, brush, you know, 10 times easily in the course of the lesson. And of course, everybody gets a chance to hear it and say it, as each person is, you know, saying and doing it too. So it's that repetition that finally, you know, gets into your brain. You know, 6-year-old in school would have had it sewed up in about, you know, 10 seconds. Oh yeah, this is soap, this is a toothbrush. They can put this stuff together just like that. And we'll remember it for next time. The rest of us will struggle with anybody over the age of probably 20. So I just like to show that to you as an example. Last little thing I'm going to show you is this. You have a picture here of, you know, a man, woman, and child in a motel, apparently. And, you know, I've talked about the use of pictures for almost any level. And in this case, presuming that it was a very basic student, and what kind of questions could you ask, you know? Do the point to, you know, point to the man, point to the baby, point to the light. The light, I know the light, can't do this backwards. Point to the chair, you know, to get all these point to things. And they can do that right there, you know, with you as you're doing the lesson, of course. Or you're Zooming, that's another story, but you know, you can do that too. Then you can ask them yes, no questions. You know, is the baby crying? Is the baby crying? Yes, she is. Maybe no, she isn't. She does look like she has a few tears on her face, perhaps. Is the lady eating? No, the lady is not. No, she isn't. Is the man eating? No, he isn't. Is the baby eating? Is the baby eating? Yes. Yes, the baby is eating. And then to the extent possible, to ask some open-ended questions, you know, like, you know, are they on vacation? Of course, they got to make this up. Are they on vacation? Well, they are in a motel, so yes, they could be on vacation. But somebody might say no. No, there's just been a big storm and they had to move from their house. And so, you know, they're in here right now. And actually, I'm seeing the man is eating, by the way. He has a sandwich in his hand. I missed that. He's also looking for one ad, so he's looking for a job. And for a more senior student or more advanced student, you know, you could say, hey, here we got this picture here. Or who do we have here? What's their names? And they might be like, what? You know, you want them to make up a story. Well, this is the Hernandez family. Who else? Who's this? Juanita and Alejandro and baby Olivia. Okay, where are they from? Well, they're from Ecuador. And what are they doing in the hotel? So get them to tell you a whole story about it. So different strokes for different folks at different levels. So that's why having a bunch of good pictures can stand you in well in your tutoring. I had a couple who were both teachers, and they had said to me at one point, my greatest fear, the fellow used to say that he taught math. My greatest fear was that I would run out of material by the end of the class, you know, that I wouldn't have enough to fill up the 45 minutes or whatever. And, you know, indeed that may happen here. You think you've got a class that's going to go on forever. And instead, after about a half an hour or so, or you know, 35, 40 minutes, you don't have a lot more to say and you really want to. So you can take out a picture and, you know, and have them tell you a story. And, you know, maybe it reminds them something about home. You start to get off on a personal aspect of their lives, how they miss it. You know, things they used to enjoy when they were kids, those kinds of things. Likewise, Janet was very reluctant to say that she didn't like America when she first came. I said, Janet, you got to tell it like it is. Not everybody is happy here for any number of reasons. You know, you can't make friends, and you know nobody understands you, and you don't understand them. And this place isn't nearly as nice as I thought, or you know, you just miss all your family back in wherever. And she really didn't want to say it. And I said, say it, because this is reality. For many students, even if it's culture shock, you know, when they first come and everything is like so new, they're so happy to be here on one hand. And on the other hand, it's just such an overwhelming thing when they don't understand what's going on around them. So I was glad she threw that in a bit, part of the way it is. Any questions about anything? That's essentially the lesson. Just to go back to your assignment for next week is to read 5 and 7. 7, I had said to the Meg that you're not going to want to try to read that all at once. You really have to split it out. It's a long chapter and it's got a lot of stuff in it that you need to try to absorb as you're going along. Continue to work on your survival kit. I had assigned a thing also to do, I'm forgetting this, your appendices, A, B, C, and D at the back of the book. The first 4 of them, just to take a look at them, because they also have a lot of good information. And I had assigned them in the very beginning of your tutor text, the text, but the workbook, you know, that we hand out. It talks about grammar internet sites. And let's see, Eileen, I gave you ABC Teacher, many things. So we'll put that down here.
That was right in the beginning. I did that.
Yeah, I think that was many things that I gave you.
Let's see, which page was that on? Okay, themanythings.org.
Yes, okay. And Jim, you were going to do Engu. Jeez, I'm looking at this. I think it's ENGOO. If it's not, it's Angu. Okay, but
I'll find
.org. Huh?
I'll find it.
I'm sure you will. I'm dying to see what you'll say about it. Meg, I think I wanted to try allwords.com. And then try to find another site as well. We talked about that a bit. If you go into ESL on the internet, you will find all kinds of literature, but lessons that can be used. And you really should make it your right-hand man, because you know, if you can't get into the office and you need material, you know, go on the internet and you'll find stuff. So try to find another site that you could share with us for next week. Is there anything else that I haven't mentioned? Any questions about anything? So we won't meet again for 2 weeks. Next week is the Memorial Day. I'll be trying to get your assignments together over the next couple of weeks. And after we meet on the 3rd week, during that period of time, you'll get your student and move on with all this. Okay. Anything at all that you want to ask about? Meg, I'm sorry that you missed some of this stuff. You missed our tutor
yeah, well,
and
my
student.
internet, it was so frustrating this morning.
I'm sure, you know, but you know what, go online.
Yeah.
And Tammy will have this available to you. So you really, you know, don't have to miss so much.
Thank you.
And if I'm lucky, I might be able to get another newer tutor and student, which will be somebody that you'll be able to relate to better. It's one thing when you've been doing this for 20 years, it's something else when you've been doing it for 6 months. And we have some good people out there that are doing things. So I'll see what I can do for that for next time. Okay, then, it's been a pleasure. And I hope to see you next time. So that'll be in June.
Thank you. Have a nice holiday, everybody.
Yes, indeed. Have a nice holiday. I guess this is 6. Yeah, that's not right, 6.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.